Okay, everybody. Okay, everything's going. This whole week has been going wrong. Anyways, we got that fixed. They said I was logged off, so I had to log back in, and we're going fine. So, how's everybody doing tonight? We got 23 people here so far, and I know there'll be some stragglers coming in, so let's see who's here. We got Avi, Isa, Bob, Bruce, Carl. We got Colin, we got Donna, Ed, Elaine, Gary, Jampa, Lisa, Mike, Pablo, Pam. We have Pearline Guy, Pickles, Rishi, Shri, Steve J, Susan, and Wendy. Reason I'm laughing, it sounds like a buffet. Anyways, I'm getting hungry just reading it. Anyway, okay. Anyway, okay, we're very fortunate tonight because Gary's got a real treat for you here tonight, and we're going to be talking about offshore accounts, IBCs. So, just catching you up on a few things before we start. Um, there's all the programs seem to be coming around, albeit slowly. The information stream is a little slow, but they're coming around, and we can see little cracks in the sunlight starting to pour through. I just ask everybody, don't get heated up in the Skype rooms, please. Everybody's got their right to their opinions and stuff, but this isn't debate time. Because it's not, our rooms aren't meant for that, okay? They're there to pass information. And one of the things that I don't think people understand sometimes is that we have no bearing upon what a program owner is going to do. So we're sitting there, we'd really like them to make a step forward in a process or something. And sometimes, it's just better to just sit back and that old word of patience. And, be polite to everybody and respectful in the rooms. Everybody, is just, we never know what's happening in someone's life that could end up being, something that causes them to be very frustrated and panicky and all the rest. So let's have a little bit of understanding and patience, and I'm sure that it will be a happier day for all. Okay, I'm going to start screen share, but before I do that, I'm just going to stop recording, just so you don't have to put up with me saying, "Oh, look at this."
I'm down the street from Microsoft. I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of you have heard me a few times over the last month and a half. So welcome to our webinar tonight on offshore corporations, the world of international business corp. Okay, guys, this is a subject that nobody understands. Last week we talked about the Nevada Corp, and I listened to it and actually did a pretty good job. So I called the basic Nevada Corp conversation our Asset Protection 101. It's recorded from last week on the 6th of September. Please go listen to it if you didn't hear it live. I think it'll stand the test of time very well. And now we're getting to a little bit of an advanced subject. This is Asset Protection 102, offshore corporations. So, the best location for offshore corporations legally, according to our constitutional attorney, Thomas Adams, is the island of Nevis, Nevis. Go look it up in Google Earth. It's out there in the ocean somewhere, near the Caribbean. Our asset protection attorney chose it because he's on the American Bar Association Offshore Committee. And this plan was in effect 6.5 years ago, folks. When I became a client of Bridgeway, it is still the same today. This is not a come in lately. This holds on. Okay, can you hear me all right? Okay, let's try it again. This is Gary Cleveland. I'm talking about offshore corporations. Can you hear me all right? Please send a note so I can see that. I'd appreciate it. Okay, I got a couple yeses. This is a subject, offshore corporations, that nobody understands. I spent a lot of years looking for this information. I was at a barbecue last Saturday talking to a professional lady, and she said, "Oh no, we can't do that. That's not good." And of course, it was a party, so there was no time to really talk to her. The common misconception is that offshore corporations are out there to hide taxes or something, or are done for some less than honorable reason. That is a misconception. I'm going to talk to you about the real world of offshore corporations. This is about smart planning, and it's completely legal. And by the way, folks, we really always pay our tax. And U.S. people, U.S. citizens, have to pay tax on income earned anywhere in the world. So if you make some profit in an offshore corporation, it comes back through our Nevada corporation for tax. So, getting back, we chose the island of Nevis. It is the Nevada of the Caribbean, and it's held up as a choice for the last 6.5 years. Our unique Bridgeway plan has our offshore corporation, it has to have an owner, and the owner is not you. I repeat, the owner is not you. It's owned 100% by your Nevada corporation or some other corporation if you desire. I had a client in Seattle who had his second offshore corp owned half by his Washington corporation and half by his Nevada corporation for personal reasons, for his family. So that means you can do a joint venture and you can own a corporation or an offshore corporation 50-50 if you have a partner. But the big thing here is the offshore corp is not you. This is, the U.S. government doesn't like private citizens going offshore, and this is a completely different subject. We have a corporation that's going offshore to another corporation. It's not a personal deal, it's a corp-to-corp deal. So, the owner's not you. We can have the Nevada Corp own it, or we can have some offshore privacy manager and director, which we call nominee services, to do the legal ownership and direction of the offshore corp for you. That's a choice. So, it can be owned by, we're moving a little fast on the red arrows here, David.
Okay, you just tell me. Where are we? Here?
I'll go back to my notes. So we can have an offshore privacy manager. It can be owned by an individual, but we don't recommend it unless you're fully engaged in a tax reduction structure already, and you're just looking to get your funds outside of the U.S. banking system for privacy and for security. I repeat that, privacy and security outside of the U.S. banking system, which means no one can touch it in a lawsuit because the laws offshore are such that there's total privacy laws, and they're not subject to lawsuits of any kind from any other country. There are at least 4 types of offshore corporations, which I call IBC, or International Business Corporation. We are doing all of these in Nevis, N-E-V-I-S, for the best legal status in the Caribbean. The first type of offshore corp, one which we've had for many years, is a regular IBC, International Business Corp, and it's owned by your Nevada Corp. The second type is an offshore LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, and the manager, all LLCs have a manager. The manager is not you. The manager is a New Mexico LLC for privacy, because a New Mexico LLC need not, for this purpose, have an EIN, which is the corporate equivalent of a Social Security number. And in fact, for this purpose, it need not have a bank account or file a tax return. It's simply a privacy badge pasted on as the manager of your offshore LLC. The manager could be also another offshore corporation, or a Nevada corporation, or any other private legal entity that you choose to be, but it is not your personal name. Never, ever, ever. The offshore LLC is part of the current latest top-down asset protection planning. The international LLC is called the mothership of all planning moving forward, which gets into an entire subject of planning, which has to do with a comprehensive set of structures, which is another discussion for another time. Suffice it to say that an international LLC has total privacy. Now, we have some special offshore corporations. My point number 3, under the type of offshore corps, we can have one which is owned by your IRA, your individual retirement account. We're the only company that I'm aware of that can actually design an offshore corporation to be owned specifically by your IRA, which is a tax-free retirement planning tool. And if you have a 401k, which was created in conjunction with some corporation, but you have total control of those funds, they can be moved into an IRA with a special bank, and that IRA can then acquire or purchase an offshore corporation. Anyway, it's a whole special deal. I do them all the time. It's a unique service that we have if you have an individual retirement account large enough to take it offshore for total security. Big thing there is nobody can touch it. A lot of people are concerned in the U.S. about their individual retirement accounts being absconded by someone. Once we get it safely offshore, no one can touch it ever. The fourth type of offshore corp is for high-risk investments. So it's a high-risk international business corp or international LLC just for high yips, which happen to be the general category of investment that all of the people in passive peeps are involved with. In my main consulting practice, I actually sell an additional international business corp to current clients who have an international business corp, who also have a Nevada corp, simply for protection in the use of high yips. It's way overkill for you guys today, but the bottom line is we do IBCs just for high-risk passive investment programs for other clients. Now, the International Business Corp can have a offshore brokerage account or an offshore trading account, and those brokerage and trading accounts, if they're high risk, could be in a separate IBC, which can be then owned by an initial IBC or a Nevada Corp. Now, I know that sounds complicated, folks, but it's pretty simple when you do it. I'm simply saying you can have more than one for different purposes. One lower risk, one higher risk. Now, offshore corps have to be funded, and if you're going to fund it, you need a bank account or a brokerage account. Today, for Bridgeway clients, we start our offshore corp clients with a bank in the country of Belize, B-E-L-I-Z-E. It's the old British Honduras. It's on the Yucatan Peninsula. It's down below Cancun, Mexico. The law history there is British law, which is a very safe frame of reference. It's an English-speaking country, and the banks, of course, speak English, so there's a strong ease of use and a pretty nice location. Now, I've been to Belize. It has the second largest coral reef in the world, and it's a very nice place to take a vacation, especially on the islands, which are called Cay, C-A-Y-E. Um, so we start you out in banking in Belize. Now, when you have an offshore corporation, you can take the legal papers for that offshore corp anywhere in the world. Anywhere that recognizes an IBC, you can open a bank account. Because an IBC is legal to do business in most countries. So that's an advanced subject, but we make it useful to you with a bank account. Now, for clients with larger amount of money, until a few months ago, we used to put them in a brokerage account on Grand Cayman Island. But the U.S. law changed in earlier 2012, and the compliance of the brokerage firm on Grand Cayman came back and told all U.S. citizens, and I think Canadian citizens, that they were no longer welcome in Grand Cayman Island. It became a liability to the brokerage house because of law changes in the USA. So, first of all, they'd still accept sophisticated investors, and then a few months ago, all of us were put out of the Grand Cayman Islands. It's just history. I have no comment about it. It just shows you the politics internationally can impact your ability, and we found a safer location in Belize. Let's see, funding issues. Got to scroll down the page a little bit. You're doing really good, David. There are other international brokerage houses and firms available in other locations, so I would suggest you would check them out if that's of great interest to you. We'll start you with a bank in Belize. Now, investment issues. One of the other reasons to have an offshore corporation, which is called a qualified intermediary, is to get into some international currencies outside of the U.S. dollar. Now, I realize some of you don't live in the USA, so you have access to your local currency. David's a Canadian, so he has access, obviously, to the Canadian dollar. Our particular bank at the moment gives you access to currencies where you can have an account in another currency. These include the Great British Pound, the GBP, the Euro, hey David and folks, the Canadian dollar, and also the Swiss franc, which anyone with a currency trading background knows is an extremely desirable currency to have. So you can diversify your accounts and keep your money in major currencies, which some people do as a hedge and for other reasons. Now, with a brokerage account, you'll have a certified, qualified investment advisor available to you. With a bank, you may or may not. So the difference is your choices. You have to have your own knowledge of your own expertise and risk factors if you're going to do any investing offshore without the advice of a broker. In that conversation, of course, you're into conservative versus high risk investment decisions, and that's outside of my conversation for the moment. But all the brokerage houses have qualified, certified brokers to advise you. Now, I have an interest in an area of expertise privately in something called high-yield offshore trade platforms. I never discuss them publicly. A lot of my clients have interest in them or are attempting to do projects with them. I only mention it here because the people that have the knowledge of these platforms know that there's a very high risk and also a very high reward possibility. So, anyone involved in those things, when you talk to me, they have to be done from a corporation, or an international business corporation or a foundation. Because I have people calling me all the time of trying to bring millions of dollars back into the USA. And I tell them what structures they need to create, and I tell them to create a Nevada Corp and an offshore corp, and I advise them to keep their large funds offshore, to not attempt to move millions of dollars into the U.S. banking system. I advise them that for privacy, for security, and frankly to make sure their funds are not seized, because any large funds wired to the U.S. banking system from offshore are subject to you not getting your money or it being held for a long period of time. So it's a big, big deal. If you're in one of those things, talk to me, because it's an advanced conversation, and I never get into any detail without a non-disclosure agreement. Just wanted you guys to know that high-yield offshore trade platforms exist, and they always, always, always require an offshore corporation to be safe. So, moving along, down to the next page, I've taken a few paragraphs from our offshore brochure, and I've included this doc so that you can look at them later, but I'll just scan through the next page, page and a half, from our brochure. So who should have an IBC? People that have worked very hard for their financial rewards, and they want to keep their assets secret and out of reach. Privacy, folks. Out of reach of lawyers and lawsuits. Anyone who has a potential target on their chest for a lawsuit, or any other potential losses from divorce, anyone of high net worth. And of course, if you're an artist or an inventor, or you have copyrights or trademarks, you should protect them in an IBC. A lot of professionals are working abroad, and or selling their products abroad, and they need an IBC. So, I've talked to you about high-risk investments, and the other thing, of course, is anyone looking to buy securities not available in the USA, or to house large amounts of precious metals offshore. The advantages of an IBC. Basically, it's exempt of any outside taxes other than taxes on regular profit in the USA. If you're not bringing profit back, it's not taxable. When you are bringing profit in, you've made money offshore, it is taxable. We always pay our tax, folks. So you scan down the page and it says there's no extra taxes of any kind. It does say that one person may fill all the positions, which is the same as we have in Nevada. You can be the president, the secretary, the treasurer, and the director. You can have more than one director of an IBC. It is a corporation. Now, the names of the shareholders of the IBC are never recorded in public, which is also the same as a Nevada corporation. So nothing need be disclosed. No statements, no financial statements. And you can do your meetings like we do here, by telephone or fax or any simple means. You can have an offshore corp for at least 20 years. And it's legal. Any business, let me take a drink here, hold on. An IBC may be established for any purpose not prohibited by international law. Any legal business, anywhere in the world can be done from an IBC. It's not subject to international currency exchange control, very low government regulation. There are bank secrecy laws in the British Virgin Islands, the Caymans, Belize, and any of the other places you might bank. And Nevis has the strongest bank secrecy laws available at the moment. So, it's against the law for them to say anything about what you got or what you're doing with it, period. These offshore locations that we're talking about are in the Caribbean, and they're major financial centers. So there's over 600 banks and trust companies for financial activities in the Caribbean. They specialize in large financial organizations, and that's their business. There's no restriction on the movement of investments. They're easy to do business with. They promote services and market goods worldwide with no restrictions using our IBC International Business Corp. You can borrow money. You can lend money. You can even own your own house in IBC, or have a mortgage back to you as an individual from the IBC. So you can have it hold real estate and other assets directly, not in your name. And you can pay rent to your offshore corp on a house. You can have a mortgage from the offshore corp on your house. It can purchase equipment and. So, real estate, leases, automobiles, stuff. All your assets could be held in an offshore corp. You can operate it as a trading company. You can set up an internet business. You can advertise products on the web. You could engage in passive investments, folks. And do it all through an offshore corporation. There's usually no extra tax. We're going to pay our tax in the USA in Nevada, or through wherever your corporation is that owns this offshore corp, if it's not a Nevada corp. But you're going to pay your tax on your profits in your home country, but not in the Caribbean location. So, this is a little bit overkill, but obviously you can use it as a marketing company, a consulting company. I like having an offshore corp as a consulting company, or financial services, or any other legal business. You can bill your services from your Nevada or local business and have it paid directly to your offshore account. The offshore account has its own stock, and it's issued in complete secrecy. There's no requirement that any officer or director be a shareholder, which means be an owner in the offshore international business corp. And as we said earlier, we can have a nominee stand in for you, someone we hire offshore to do all these functions, to be the officers and directors if you want additional privacy. Personally, I think it's a little overkill, unless you've got many millions, but it is available. So privacy, privacy, privacy. Now, we can have an offshore corp owned by a separate offshore corp. And we can keep your offshore corp books outside of the country you live in if you wish. So privacy, privacy, privacy. So let me pause for a moment. You're always paying your taxes, and you're paying it through your Nevada Corp. My basic summary is, have a corporation first. You're going to reduce your taxes, run some business expenses, run your business, and have your money in your business. Then, when you have enough of that money saved up, you move some of it to your offshore corp. So point two, your Nevada corp Here's the unique Bridgeway secret sauce. Your Nevada Corp owns the offshore corp, the International Business Corp, 100% as the only stockholder for advanced tax strategies, for privacy, and anytime you make profit offshore that you want to bring back and spend, it flows through your Nevada Corp on your tax form as ordinary income. You're going to run your expenses through the corp, reduce your tax. You personally do not ever own the IBC. A corporation that you might be a director of does own the IBC. You personally are not going offshore. You do not own an offshore corp. But you might be close to a corporation that does own an offshore corp. We're basically mimicking what the large corporate America does by having one corp own another. Now, point 3 on my summary. We never disclose the existence of an IBC. No one knows it exists. This is all about privacy. Privacy is all about financial privacy and getting assets not in your name. If they're not in your name, then they're private and no one can ever attach them in a lawsuit. My summary point number 5 on offshore corps. You can have as many of them as you need for different purposes. For most of you, it'll be a big deal to have one, but if you make a few million, you might have more than one. Now, for example, I like endowment foundations. Your foundation can have an IBC for tax-free, high-yield, offshore investments. I like that. I got some plans there. I've been with this information for years, and when you get there, we'll talk about it. Summary point number 7, your IRA. Your retirement account. It can own an offshore corp and keep your retirement funds tax-free and totally safe outside of the U.S. banking system or the Canadian banking system or wherever the heck you are, and therefore not subject to seizure of any kind. My summary point number 8. Offshore IBC can have an IBC to separate regular offshore investments from high-risk investments. In other words, your IBC can have stocks and bonds offshore and oil and gas normal investments. And if you have something called high risk, you might have a second offshore corporation. It's up to you to determine what high risk is. We've talked about this before. My summary point number 9. You can travel the world and you can do business anywhere in the world in your IBC offshore corporation. You always keep those funds separate from your domestic funds. So, if you got a bank account, you probably got a Visa card or a checking account. Ways to access your offshore money, which you use separate from your domestic funds, and you use when you're traveling internationally. The 10th point really is that everything that most people think about offshore corps not being legal or being used in less than an honorable way reference to tax is not based on real information. The real information is they're corporations, and if they make profit, they have to get it back to be taxed. With our unique approach, we get it back through our Nevada Corp and pay the tax quietly. So this is all about planning, privacy, and always, always, always paying tax. I probably went a little too fast when I was reading through about a page and a half of detail that came off of our brochure. But it's there to look at. You can ask me questions in emails or one-on-one conversations anytime. The basic point is many people spend thousands and thousands and go on trips and go on boats and go on to offshore waters to get seminars on offshore corporations and offshore banking and offshore brokerage. And frankly, we got all that information. We have it here. It's available now. I create these corps through Bridgeway all the time. And you don't have to go anywhere. It's the convenience of a Skype, a phone call, an email, and normal business communication with Gary Cleveland, your asset protection consultant. And that kind of cuts through the chase and leads to me now asking David if he has any comments before I take a drink of water and start answering questions.
Okay, Gary, well, thanks very much. We'll let you take a little breather there before we get into the questions. I'd like to thank you so much. I mean, for all the people that's here today, let me just go back and just take a peek here what we got going. We had 23 people. That's really great. And I'll tell you something. Even though that you might not be close to doing this, you know, I can't share with you enough that there was no question when I decided to get into it, because in the vision that I had for myself and for my family, I definitely saw that, you know, where I am in my life, I would need to have something like this going on. I could see that there's great potential down the road. I didn't want at the last second to be scrambling around to say, somebody show me what to do with this, or how do I construct this. So it was quite timely that I basically had run into Marcus, and Marcus had told me about Bridgeway Financial, introduced me to Gary, and away we went. So we were very lucky at the time that when John was doing the website and still is building, that we got a chance to ask Gary if he'd like to do these every Thursday night, which he agreed to, for as long as there's people coming in here. And every Thursday night, the webinars that you hear, whether it be live or it's on a recorded video on our YouTube or on our site, you're going to learn so much about what it takes to have asset protection plus. And I'm telling you right now, for just a little bit of time, and I've only touched the iceberg, but the little bit of time that I've been involved with it here, it requires your attention, I'll say that much. And you know, I just finished today getting all of my documents and everything notarized and doing all the rest of that, so that would be shipped off to where it needs to go. But you know, it was quite a process, and it was a learning process, you know, as you read through the forms. You can carry this information with you for the rest of your lives, not only for yourselves, but when it comes time for your children and friends, that they might come into some assets beyond their expectations, and wanting to know what to do with it. You can just step up and say, no, this great guy Gary Cleveland, and let him be your Santa Claus. And I'm telling you, it makes every day look like, you know, it's another present. It's another, you know, you're getting more cash in your pocket because of the ideas and the deployment of their techniques to save your money. So it's really great, and you know, I appreciate it. I know a lot of people and a lot of the peeps appreciate it, and I just know that as more and more people come on, as more and more people share what they're learning, and watching the webinars, even recorded, it won't be long before we have full rooms, and because this is something that everybody's going to or should be learning if they're into our programs and eventually making a lot of money. So, and we all know which one that is. That's Daily Profit Always. We're being, quote, patient. When that one unfolds itself, there could be some people making some very large sums of cash. And, it's just, don't think about a spending spree yet. Let's make sure that that money's out of your hands, but still in your hands, and we'll go forward from there. So, but that's a different time and place. And when it happens, I don't think Gary's going to mind being swamped with calls. So, Gary, if you're ready and if everybody else is ready, I'm going to stop screen sharing right now, so I can get us the screen here because we just want to talk about questions. Let me just pull up. Let me just pull up here. I think that's the one that I want to see. Right there. Presto, that's the one I want to see. And okay, so we're ready for questions. Let me get Gary back on here. Let me mute myself.
DPA. How can I transfer profits to a corp or an IBC? Do it. Get it out of your payment processor and assign them directly to your corporate checking account of your Nevada Corp or your offshore bank account for your IBC. You're talking about mechanics. I can't discuss that. You want your profits to go directly into your Nevada Corp and pay your taxes, lower your tax, and have your excess profits go to your IBC to get it offshore working in a whole nother set of investments that they'll make available to you. So get your detailed guy to advise you. Does being in Nevis change the price of an IBC from what it was in the Cayman Islands? We've always done our IBCs in Nevis. It's our brokerage house in the Cayman Islands. Doesn't do business with USA anymore, so we have a bank in Belize. Doesn't have anything to do with price. What sort of sum would be looking at starting a Nevis corporation? They're about $4,000. So you have to have some money before you spend some money. But that's just to form the corporation. The minimum to open a bank account is what you're asking in Belize is $500. So you form the corporation and pay for it, and the minimum funding amount is $500. Now, it used to be a lot higher, and for the brokerage account in Grand Cayman Island, it was $25,000, which had been negotiated down from $100,000. So, $500 to open a bank account in Belize is a good deal, folks. How much does it cost? I already commented. It's about $4,000 for an international business corp. You're not moving anywhere. You're not traveling. You're not catching a boat or a plane. You're just interacting with Gary. David said, I'll take 10. Well, actually, you've got people making 1,000 to 1,500 to 1,700 a day when your next program pays out. So there are probably at least 10 people here that will need an offshore corp soon. Ed Burns to everyone. Okay. Next question. It's very advanced information, folks. Took me a very long time to find it, and being designed by a constitutional attorney who is an expert's expert, I'm quite comfortable with what I'm presenting to you. Not to mention the fact that I have a lot of people that have already bought these in the last year and a half. Is there a minimum amount required? Very good. For the IRA offshore corp. Well, Well, the price of the corp is the same. You need to ask me an email. I've got an expert to answer the question on the minimum amount in an IRA. Many of us in DPA are over 100 plus now. What should we be doing? If you're in the USA or Canada, get a Nevada Corp, for sure. If you're somewhere else in the world, tell me where you are. But once you do a Nevada Corp, you're paying U.S. taxes, federal, in Nevada only. If you've got 100,000 plus going on, you need to reduce your tax. So yes, you should be doing it now if you've got 100,000 plus going in. That's major income, and it's going to get bigger, and we need to reduce your expenses. We need to reduce your tax and get it out of your name. Australia. How much is a Nevada Corp? About 3,000. Actually, one with called a Wall Street Corp with a lot of stock is $34.75, including bank account, including expedite, to get it done in a few hours from payment. I covered all that last week. It's in every email that I usually send out. A Nevada Corp with banking, with expedite, with 12 months of support is $3,475 US dollars. 347. Now amounts to transfer over 10,000 to our offshore. Will it find obstacles for any reasons? No, if it is clean, normal, regular funds, you send a wire from your corporate bank account, not a personal wire, it's a corporate wire, to your corporate offshore bank account. Corp to corp. That's how business is done. We are doing the same thing on a small basis. As long as they're clean funds, normal wiring system applies. Annual fees. Annual fees on Nevada are about $400. For an offshore corp, they're a little more. The banking system is very sensitive to money being clean. That's why when you do a Nevada Corp bank account, you got to show your passport or driver's license, and you got to prove to them that you're a normal person. And in the U.S., you got to give them your Social Security number to get that bank account. I mean, I'm not here to talk about banking, folks. You got to keep the international banking system happy. That's out of my control. Give them clean money. And if you don't, it'll be the last conversation we have about the subject. Question about the program, if it won't allow you to use a Nevada C Corp. Can't comment about your program. What I can tell you is you can get money out of that program and have it directly deposited to a Nevada C Corp. At that point, it is income or revenue to the Nevada Corp, or it's a loan to the Nevada Corp. Now we're into accounting issues. So I don't care how you signed up for your program, get your money into the Nevada banking account, and we'll deal with it in normal accounting with our CPA. This is business, folks. So, can an Australian have a Nevada C Corp? Yes, absolutely. You're just going to... Now we're into a tax conversation, which I can do an illustration in an email. But the first $50,000 profit after all expenses in a Nevada Corp is 15%, folks. And then after that it goes up, and that's between you and the CPA and how much profit you've got. And after conversations with all of our advanced tax planning issues and subjects, which we talked about a bit last week. So yeah, I've got lady down in New Zealand right below you in Australia that has a Nevada C Corp now. Anywhere in the world, as long as you use it legally as part of a strategy to have privacy, get assets out of your name, and reduce your taxes, and run business. And folks, anybody with your investment programs that's getting any referral fee income at all from any of the programs, you're in business. And you have all kinds of business expenses you can deduct from the Nevada corporation that you may not have even known about. That's what I'm here for. Not a lot of offshore corporation questions right now. We're doing really well, by the way, folks. I thank you. So I hope you've been able to hear me okay. And I acknowledge I spoke a little fast tonight, so I apologize. But the big thing, in summary, is this is all about planning and privacy. You can have access to the CPA one-on-one. I can't bring him on a conference call at the moment without making him, without making some very special arrangements. Because his time is not free. My time is available to you for support, and does a police bank have a debit card? Yeah, it's a bank. I wouldn't spend money from your police bank account in the country you're in, necessarily. Now you're back into tax planning and privacy issues. If you're traveling internationally, yes. I wouldn't use it in the United States. You have a regular personal debit card in the U.S., or you'll have a Wells Fargo Nevada corporate debit card in the U.S. Use those. You have a police bank account. It's not in the U.S. If it has a debit card, you can use it anywhere legally. However, that's a whole specialized subject that I'd rather deal with one-on-one. It's not an open conversation. You're getting rather, it's a little bit too much detail on that question. USA declares the ad businesses illegal. Can they look into Nevada Corp or IBC if they're transferring funds into them from our personal account? Well, you ought to sign up for everything in the name of your Nevada Corp if you can, period. You're in business, use it. Don't have a personal account if you cannot have one. There are officers and directors protection legally for the Nevada Corp, and there are privacy laws protecting your offshore corp. Your personal account's your personal account. I can't comment on it. And I cannot comment on the legality of any of the businesses you're involved with or any of the investment programs you're involved with. So, it's a great question. Put it to me put it to me in an email and see if I can give you a better answer. Someone said they had a Wells Fargo account now. Well, that's fine, but it's not a corporate account. It's a personal account. You're going to live as the CEO and president of a corporation in the corporation as much as legally possible, which is totally different from living personally. Two different animals. May help you get it. I mean, I have more than one corporation, and I have personal accounts and corporate accounts, and I transfer online all the time according to the guidelines from my CPA and basic bookkeeping. Um, I love online banking with Wells Fargo. It's very convenient. Looks like the questions have slowed down, and we're now 1 hour and 2 minutes into the webinar. So, my email address is on my website, and anyone who's signed a new client information form is on my weekly email database. All that information is available on the Passive Peeps website. I'm pretty visible and pretty available. Send me a Skype or an email, or get to me through Passive Peeps, and I'll continue to answer your questions. Here's a question from someone who I believe is in Colombia. Do your clients seek your services exclusively to join PPP, private placement platforms, and do you have a specific recommendation? That's a private conversation. Talk to me in email. That's a non-disclosure agreement subject and not a public conversation. And yes, I know you're my translator into Spanish. Thank you. I only mention the subject so you understand that that world exists, and obviously some of you do, and that the use of these structures legally are highly, highly recommended or required to be in the world of private placement. It's definitely not a public conversation, and I think we're done with questions, David. So thank you. Offshore.
Sorry, Gary, cut you off there a little soon. Sorry about that. I just thought when you said thank you, that was it. So, but anyway, boy, I'm telling you, if everybody hasn't learned something here tonight, I don't know, there's something wrong. But we got a lot of things to think about and to plan for. And please take Gary up on his offer for you to send him emails and have an email conversation. That would be really something that would benefit you greatly. So again, another great webinar on asset protection. Gary Cleveland. And we're looking forward to next week, and expect by then everybody to have a Nevada C Corp by then. And that's going to be great. So just a note here, Thursday, today is Thursday, so Saturday, 4 p.m. is our next webinar. We're still working out the program, the software for Top Fusion. I think you'll like that. They have a really neat question box up at the top and a few other things. And that, so I think you're going to enjoy that. And I guess if it's not going to happen, please check the Skype room so you can get the link there at least 3 hours ahead of time.